strenuously to rebuild that culture in a way that, while admitting the legacy of the Third Reich, allows that earlier past to shine again. The book is in chronological order, although the Roman and medieval bits veer around alarmingly, and are as much about why later Germans were so obsessed with these periods as they are about the periods themselves. Every attempt has been made to avoid a mere sequence of dreary dynastic events. The chronology is less oppressive than it might be, because I take regular timeouts to talk about music, fairy tales, alcohol, and so on. But where did this interest come from? Some families relish action and adventure. Others are perhaps more passive. Growing up, I, like all children, assumed that my own family was just like any other, that we in fact provided a benchmark by which other families were more rambunctious than ourselves, or more snobbish, or more gloomy. Looking back from the slightly more comparative heights of adulthood, my family, myself included, now strike me as almost crazily inert. Months would go by with effectively no form of activity whatsoever. We would engage in a restricted range of household chores, but otherwise my parents and my younger sisters and I lived in our West Kent idyll, in a sort of enchanted castle of torpor. My mother disapproved of any form of exercise, so we had no bicycles, and despite having a large garden, I had a clear sense that it was probably a mistake to go outside at all, with its lack of comfortable chairs and reading lamps. Occasionally my father would battle to mow the moss-clogged lawn, but I certainly never volunteered to help, and the garden always won. Once a summer we would stir ourselves sufficiently to have lunch outside, but my sisters and I would take turns to be alarmed by wasps. Something would always get spilled, and the conversation would tend to veer acrimoniously in wrong directions. My hatred for all forms of sport, stemming, of course, from incompetence, put the final lid on. While we were busy in the usual ways during the school term, the weekends and holidays seemed to drift by in a genial slough of inaction. This background is necessary to understand the sheer drama and excitement of my first encounter with Germanness, the unintended pivot that changed the direction of my life. Looking back, I think my father was a little frustrated by the general housebound stasis. He liked to do DIY, and had run and fenced at school. His one great surprise was that he was in the Royal Naval Reserve. This was a commitment he began shortly before meeting my mother, and she always hated it, as it meant that for 2 weeks of the year he would disappear with an irritating combination of nonchalance and patriotism, while she had to deal with a pile of needy, if unvigorous, children. How I loved his annual trip. He would go on nuclear submarines, minesweepers, aircraft carriers, the Ark Royal, fly as a passenger in Phantom fighter bombers. Clearly the whole thing was a laugh, and because the Cold War never went anywhere, it simply became a government-paid-for way to eat huge, fatty breakfasts, wear a devastatingly lovely uniform, drink a lot, and fire guns. He wound up with the James Bond rank of commander, with a gorgeous peaked cap and a jacket festooned at the cuff with the sort of gold stitching that makes fighting wars almost worthwhile. He would send me occasional, curtly mysterious postcards with suitable pictures of jets and missiles and stuff, which gave me a cumulative, phony credibility at my boarding school. So, as may be imagined, there was what could potentially be viewed as a creative tension in the household between the day-to-day cheerful somnolence and the secret 2-week burst of apparent action and adventure enjoyed by my father. Our annual family holidays were always very happy events, almost always in France, every now and then, and much less happily, in Scotland or Wales.